Welcome back, 3D students. In the last series of videos, we finished our character rig. And in this next series of videos, we're going to actually attach our character mesh to the bones so that when we move the controllers, the bones will deform the mesh. Right now, when we select a controller and rotate it, nothing happens. But after we finish this process, when we select a controller and rotate it, the mesh will follow. And this will allow us to pose our character and ultimately animate him. Now, this process is called skinning, and we apply a skin modifier onto the mesh, and each bone has an influence over the vertices on the mesh. If I click this little button here, you can see that the head bone has influence over the vertices that are in red. And if I select another bone like this arm, you can see that this arm bone has influence over the vertices that are in this area. And each bone has an envelope associated with it, and if you move the envelope around, you can expand or contract the influence of that bone. If I turn on edged faces and select a vertex, you can see that that vertex that I have selected in this little table here is influenced by all of these bones here. Each one of these bones has an amount of influence over this one vertex. So when we apply the skin modifier to our mesh, this vertex is assigned these bones by the computer, and we have to adjust how much influence each of these bones has on that vertex to make the mesh deform properly. So let's get started. So let's start by making our character mesh visible, unfreezing it if it's frozen, and then select it, and then under Object Properties you need to make it not see-through if it's see-through. And then what I would do is come up here and save a copy of your file. I'm going to add O2 to this one and click Save. This is because we're going to do some permanent things to this, and we want to make sure that we can get back to this file. So let's start by opening up the Modify tab for our character. And if you have any modifiers like symmetry or anything like that, you're going to have to collapse it. So you're going to want to convert it to an editable poly, and that should take it down to here. You can leave that Arnold Properties modifier on it. And then I think it's probably a good idea for these extremely low poly characters to add a turbo smooth to the mesh with one iteration, and then go ahead and right click and convert that to an editable poly. And that permanently applies that smoothing and gives us more edges to work with. And then let's select the character mesh, open up the modifier list, and find skin. Now the skin modifier is on here, but it's not going to do anything because we don't have any bones listed in the list. So we're going to click this Add button here, and then in here we're going to search for all the bones that have that prefix of BN, and that's why we did that. That's why we put that on there. I don't know why these control objects popped up, but go ahead and click all the BN prefix bones and click Select. And they should all appear in here. And now, when we select and rotate, you can see that the mesh deforms. And if we're lucky, it'll look pretty good. You just need to go around and look and see how well it deforms. And you can see the cheek moving here when I move the arm. Of course, we don't want that to happen. And I'm just checking out to see how well it deforms. And you can see here that the legs look a little bad. can see that that doesn't follow the bone very well there. And that kind of breaks down. I don't think the stomach should tuck in like that, like so much. So do that and see what everything looks like. And what we're going to do when we come back in the next video is we're going to create some animated poses. Oh, and you can clearly see here how when I move this leg, it's influencing the mesh on this foot, and that is certainly not what we want. We're going to create some poses and animate the characters so that we can then work with the vertex weights and get our character mesh to deform properly. And I'll see you in the next video.